Hey guys, we are live, and today we have a very special guest, one of my friends. Her name is Natalie Rodriguez.
Hi.
Natalie, how are you? Thank you for coming on to Knockeye. Today we're going to discuss her film, Howard
Yes.
Original.
Yes.
And
That's an it.
Howard, I love Howard. Howard is awesome, by the way. I love the character. Um,
You were
yes,
saying
Natalie, so
that. You
tell
always
us
mention
about.
that.
I really do.
Hi,
He's
first of
very
all,
interesting. Even the real person. But yeah, tell me about it.
yes. I'll go into details about that. No, thank you for having me. It's good to be back. I'm glad I just got to speak with your students. You actually teach courses, so it's good to see
You do,
familiar
yeah,
faces. And we're all it's spread out in different areas too. That's what amazes me. Like someone's in the UK right now. I think another's in Australia.
yeah.
But yes, no, I'm so excited because we started doing some promotional for Howard Original. It's my next sophomore directorial feature, and it's a comedy drama satire about the entertainment industry. And I've been posting clips as of yesterday. I've been posting some clips and then trailers of the film, and we have Kevin Michaels. He plays the protagonist, leading character of the movie. Leading character is named Howard, and Kevin actually played Howard in the short film version from gosh, I think like 2017. It's been a few years, but we're excited. I mean, kind of, I know I mentioned last time when I was last on with my other film, it's interesting to release a film during a pandemic. It's kind of like everything's virtual, so it's been an adjustment for myself, and of course I know with other filmmakers and colleagues of mine, it's we're not used to everything being virtual. Usually when you have a film come out, you do a lot of in-person events, or you have stuff in theaters, but of course we kind of know what happened with all the theaters right now. I know things are a little they're slowly opening, but Howard right now it's going to be premiering next month on Friday, May 21st on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Google Play, and some other streaming platforms. But be sure to check out our social pages. It's Howard Original One, one as number one. To stay tuned, we're going to be posting, updates about the film. We'll be sharing the clips and trailers from the film as well. I'm really excited because it's the first time I'm going to be showing more clips from a film. And I think what kind of makes that interesting with Howard, because Howard's like my second comedy I've ever done. So I usually do a lot of dramas, writing and directing wise. So Howard, I'm very, very curious because it's definitely different from other stuff I've done before. But I think it's a good different because I've always wanted to do more kind of like comedy based storylines or characters. They're kind of little quirky. We have a lot of quirky characters in Howard Original, and it's a bigger ensemble cast. So we have I think like about 15 to 16 characters, all very talented people too. And I'll be posting, individual clips of those characters as well, just to kind of introduce the character and then who plays who. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
So, Natalie, you directed this, right?
Yes.
And what was that like? What was it like working with the actors? What was
Mm.
it like bringing this together, like this whole story together, when you were actually
Yeah,
shooting?
definitely.
You knew when you were shooting.
Yeah, definitely this one we did a lot of improvising. So, kind of a little secret. I don't know if I mentioned this. I might have mentioned it to you, Joy, off camera. But we actually did a lot of improvisation. So, improvise is actors going off book, whether you have script pages or if you just have a detailed description of what happens in a scene or scenes. We did a lot of that, and we shot the film. We shot Howard Original very fast. So we filmed over the course of like 6 months, but we shot a lot of scenes in like one day. So that's why we had a lot of improvisation moments. It was kind of showing up the set days we didn't have script pages, or if we just had, hey, in this scene, Howard's going to get in a fight, argument with this character. We would show up as your cameraman and your crew setting up for the scene, things from lighting to, making sure, sound's recording properly, the camera's recording properly. I mean, and the actors would be like blocking out the scene and would be like, okay, so Howard's going to get mad. And this is Maddie. Speaking of, he always wants to come
And
on
it's very
camera.
interesting. Everyone right now, they're recording at home. Fred, Alina, Poke, and they're going through the whole process of like recording,
Mm,
and actually bringing things together. And it's I don't know. I want to ask them, what do you think it's a challenge?
mm.
Was it a challenge for you, Natalie? When obviously when you're on set, when you're filming,
Yeah.
getting the right shot, getting, the great,
Oh
good
yeah.
sound.
It is. I always say I think comedy is actually a little harder than drama. With comedies, kind of going back into improvisation. Um, I think improvisation, it comes from a lot from theater. I have a theater background, so I love it. I love working with actors, and you're like, just go for it. Like, if you're supposed to get in an argument with the character, I love seeing actors like go the full, route. They don't hold back. But comedy is definitely harder, kind of going back to that, because comedy is all about not just the timing, but also like what they're saying. Should they say a joke? Should they go over the top? Should it be downplayed where they're a little more drier, or they're like, kind of, we see different types
That's
of humor
interesting,
in
right?
movies.
Because as they're acting,
Yeah.
as they're doing their thing, sometimes they bounce off of each other, the energy,
Yeah.
and that's where the comedy might come in place too, right?
Yeah.
Finding the right type of person, or
Oh, it does.
um,
100%.
the right balance. And then you, as a director, you kind of have to give them space, right? Or no,
Hmm.
or
I
you
think it's
micromanage every
50-50.
expression. I mean, I don't know what's your approach. What do you
For
think?
me, as I've had colleagues tell me this, I feel like for me, I've even done this with scripted material. So before Howard Original, I've even done this with previous films of mine. You have script pages, right? And you come to set, and then you'll see actors add in a line that's not in the script, or they'll do something that's not part of the script. And 90% of the time, I like that more. I'll be like, wait, what did you just say or do? And they're like, oh, it's just, kind of messing around. And usually 90% of the time, I'll ask them, hey, let's put that in the take. Like, say the scripted material, do the scripted material, in terms of movement where you're blocking, but also do what you just did in rehearsals. So I think it's 50-50. I think, there's going to be times where like, hey, yeah, let's try this. Let's go off book, or let's improvise with your actors. Or there'll be times you're like, hey, no, let's stick to the script. We need to have this, just following the script, what's in writing on pages. So I think it's a mix of both worlds. I think definitely with comedy, I mean, all my favorite filmmakers, of course, before I film anything, I look to my favorite films or favorite directors and look at their work, or try to listen to all the behind the scenes stories on how they shoot comedy or whatever genre I'm filming at the time. And half the time with comedy, a lot of directors do that. They'll film scripted pages, and then they'll go off book, or, without script, and they'll film like anywhere between like 20 minutes to an hour of just the actors improvising. They're going off, they're bouncing off each other. And I think that's the best, because I think when you let the actors play, I think it just, you get the best results. And I think 99% of the time you end up going with that take where the actors are just, it's just like they become so immersed in their character. It's like, it sounds cliche, but you just like, if you let them play with that character, they just, that's where like the magic happens. And I think that's the fun part with directing, because sometimes I think a lot of directors or even writers, they get a little, no, it has to be this way, can't do this. But I'm like, yeah, but if you kind of restrict your actors from trying new things with the character, I feel you're going to miss out on some potentially good material. So I
And
say,
you know what?
get
What I
both
really like
takes.
about
Get both.
YouTube, when you do like skits on YouTube, there is that element of comedy, but then
Mhm.
also improvising and working with the
Yeah,
people, and
definitely.
it's kind of fun, depending on how people would approach a video on YouTube. But yeah,
So
that's
I
pretty.
think
I think
similar.
personally, I think that's fun, and that's where you get
Yeah.
things that are funny.
And I think I mean I love it. I mean, that's, I always forget, directing's like all about that. It's not, whether you're the director and you wrote the script or you didn't, it's, I feel like it's choreographing. So you're almost like, you're kind of choreographing with your actors. I always say, like, when you're on set, sometimes it's like you're dancing with the actors, especially the cinematographer, because I'm a big fan of long takes, and long takes is where you have limited camera cuts. So usually you follow the actors, and
I
I
love
love
that
that. And we try
too.
to do
I
that a
think
lot
that's
in
because
Howard.
that involves like staging, right? Or it involves
Yeah.
kind of setting the scene up where the camera's going to kind of move through, kind of like an
Yes.
experience. There's
Yeah.
a lot
No, it
of great
does.
filmmaking like that. I think that's great. I think people should do that more. I don't really see that very often.
It's hard. So the thing is, it's tiring. It can be tiring on the cast and crew, depending on how long the take is. I mean, of course, nowadays with technology and, with so much stuff we have available for filming, I mean, we've seen films where they do like, like 20-minute long take. So it's like they literally they're following the characters for that 20 minutes or so, and there's no camera cut, until after that 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
but it's definitely, I think for me, those kind of long takes, directing wise, it reminds me of theater, because I love theater, and theater is very like, we talked about with the students like a few minutes before we hopped on here. We talked about how theater is when you goof up in theater, right? Whether you miss a line or you say the wrong line or you do like the wrong stage blocking, you're live, right? You can't be like that where you're like, hey, can I start that over? Let's cut. It's like in theater, you have to just go with it. You go with the flow. So you're like, oh, I messed up this line. All right, I gotta like let my scene partner know, or if it's just you on stage, I gotta somehow get back to that scripted material. So it's the same
Exactly.
with long takes. I feel like film, it's impossible to mess up. I feel like because you got to trust your actors and your team. So I kind of feel it's one of those, just trust your actors. It's like you hire them for a reason, or with your crew, you hire them for a reason too. I was gonna say, because there's so much egos and weird. There's sometimes like the cliche behaviors on in film and TV world. So I always say go with your instinct as a filmmaker. If you feel like what your actor's saying or doing is better than what's on the script pages, just tell them. I feel like 9% of the time, I feel that's what makes great teamwork, because that's the whole point, right? With film or even doing YouTube sketches, it's a teamwork process.
Very true.
Even doing everything on your own, because I feel like even if you're doing stuff solo, you're still asking your friends and family or your peers or colleagues for feedback. And because I just felt that's kind of my opinion. Maybe no one agrees.
So Lena raised his hand for a question. Lena, go for it.
Oh damn it! I forgot my question. Damn it.
We were talking about directing and.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. How hard is it to be a director?
How hard is it? It has its good and bad days. I think directors like any other person on set, or whether in front of the camera, behind the camera.
Can I add to that question?
Good moments and bad moments. What's up?
How can I add to that question? How hard is it to be a director in Los Angeles? How about that?
Oh, that's the reality. I think a director in general, it's a difficult job. A lot of people don't like to do it because you are micromanaging a lot of people on set. When you're shooting, I don't know if there's a term called independent films. So when you're shooting with a smaller cast and crew, you tend to double duty. So usually the director is doing multiple jobs on set and then prior to coming to set on production.
And you're the writer, right? You're the writer?
Are
you the writer?
Yes, co-writer.
You did writing and directing, right?
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm one of the co-writers. Kevin Michaels is actually the other writer of Howard Original, and he's actually the lead of the film too. So kind of like Howard Original, we double dutied. So we did a lot of multiple hats on the film. I think directing wise, when you're doing multiple things, when you're like, if you're a producer, you're in charge of call sheets, sending out schedules to cast and crew. It can be tiring because I think realistically, I preferably just like to direct. I just want to be like, I just want to focus coming to set, working with the actors, in a perfect world. I don't want to have to think about, I have to send out a call sheet. I have to call for lunchtime. Usually on bigger productions, you have people taking care of those jobs. So the director can just focus on, like I mentioned, just the directing.
But don't you just want to get it done?
I do. Yeah. You just get it done. And I think that's kind of the beauty with the independent world. So definitely indie world, when you come from doing films, whether it's on your phone or with your friends or with your family or with, people you find through auditions. I think micromanaging, I was going to say the benefit of that is it teaches you on what you like working wise on production or what you don't like. So if you're, I guess, for example, if you're directing and you're also filming it, you're the person that's holding the camera, you might think after that project, oh, I actually like, filming my own stuff. I want to film all my projects and also direct them. It's different for everyone. So I always say, that's the perk side with working independently, independent projects, whether it's a feature film, TV show, or web series, or even a YouTube skit. It does teach you what you like and then something you don't want to continue working in. But I think that's part of, in LA, especially, kind of answer your question, Joey. I think a Los Angeles filmmaker, that's kind of, I don't sound discouraging, but that's kind of the perk side with working multiple hats in Los Angeles, because we kind of all know that saying in LA, everyone wants to be a wants to be in the movie, entertainment world, but only a few people will do the work. But I always, I want to say, I think as long as you're passionate, or I think as long as you're going day and night, you're thinking about a project or about, hey, I have to be an actor, or hey, I have to, be a writer or a director and so forth. I feel like, the chances of that happening, it's possible, because I feel like, it all comes from passion, and, over time you meet the right people that will see that passion. And there's people who will see your passion, even if it seems like no one ever will. I get those days too still. We're just like, oh my gosh, why is everyone giving me no's, or how come no one's not understanding? But it's just timing too. I think, that's one thing I'm learning myself still. It's timing. Don't force projects. If one project comes sooner than the other, go with the flow. I mean, doesn't mean the other project won't get made. Just it's meant for something bigger, I feel.
I wanted to ask you, so once about the editing process, like, did you look that over? What was that like for you, that experience? Because I know that happened within, of course, once you're done shooting, then there's a whole editing process. How long did that take from beginning to end, and what was that like? It's interesting.
I'm thinking for Howard, it took so we started filming Howard in November 2019, and we wrapped production in February 2020, ironically right before the pandemic hit. So that's what was ironic. So
really, right when we kind of met.
Yeah, no, we did. And that's what's. I think we wrapped production on Howard like 2-3 weeks before everything shut down because of COVID. But I wanted to say, editing started in November, and it continued up until I want to say July 2020, because then we started submitting the film to film festivals and started sharing like the screener link, a private screener link to like some bloggers or to potential like movie reviewers, people that wanted to review the film. So it took about, November to July. That took about a few months. But that was also because most of us, kind of like the typical Los Angeles filmmaker, most of us work day jobs. So from November to February, I was actually working full-time Monday to Fridays, and on the weekends we'd go shoot scenes for Howard Original. So that's why it took a little
dedication,
longer.
Right?
No, every weekend I was filming. Me and Kevin are always like, when me and Kevin, he worked a day job too. So like he would meet with me at lunch. We would rehearse for an hour, and then I'd be like, most of the time I had to go because Kevin, who plays the lead Howard Original in the film, Kevin had to, he got off work early. So I was like, hey, Kevin, after an hour, I have to go back to work. But that's how we did it. I mean, we just wanted to tell the story. And I think once you start filming a project, I'm one of those people, and I'm, of course, people like Kevin too, and other people involved in the film. Once you finish something, you're just like, okay, once you start something, you want to finish it. You want to like just see the results. You just kind of like in that tunnel vision, right? You're like, I just got to get to that end before I can go on to the next project or go into post-production even. So yeah, post is a process. And I'm on to say too, I have to give a shout out to Daryl. So Daryl Hall, he actually edited 2 of my features. He edited my first feature film, The Extraordinary Ordinary, and Daryl he edited Howard Original, and very talented individual posts. I feel Daryl knows what style like in terms of editing, and I feel as a director that's a dream come true when you can find an editor that knows what you like. Or there's times with Daryl with editing, I'd be like, Daryl, I have no idea how I want this scene to go out, or I have no idea how I want the film to go out.
How did Daryl help you with that? Like, how did he he knew what you wanted, or how did that happen, that communication process between you and the editor?
So Daryl and I actually, and at first, because usually when you're done directing, I should say this, at least for me, once you're done filming, when you call that's a wrap, for a project, whether it's a feature, short, whatever, I'm tired. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so burned out. I want to sleep for like a year. And usually with the benefit of having an editor, someone like Daryl, you pass over, all the footage to him. And Daryl was already editing Howard. So Daryl already knew what style I was looking for and the tone. And because he had the short film to go off to, I was like, hey, watch the short. I want this style. So I sent Daryl a lot of examples. Or there was times too with Daryl, I'd be like, Daryl, I'm so burned out. I have no idea what the heck I want for this film. And Daryl would just tell me, he's like, okay, well, let me edit and then I'll come back to you in X amount of days, and then we'll watch the film together, and then we'll talk. So Daryl, actually, we would watch the film like this virtually, and I would
watch
notes.
The film, and then you'll be like, okay, I think this or that, or you would change certain things.
Yeah, very and a good editor is the one to say. A good editor, I think it's okay if you disagree with your editor, but I also say try to see your editor's side of things too. So with Howard Original, there were times where I was like, me and Daryl would be like this, talking like how you and I are right now, Joey. And I would be like watching the film. We had another screen where Howard was playing. And I'd be like, okay, Daryl, stop that. I don't know if I like this. And Daryl would actually pitch in and be like, well, I think you need this scene, or I think we need to have this take not in this film because of XYZ. So I feel like that's what made me and Daryl work well, because
that's very interesting.
He would give logical reasons. He would give reasons why he thought certain things should be a certain way, or why he thought another way.
So you edit this during the pandemic, COVID-19. Like this was all kind of done virtually, like virtual editing. You virtually edited your movie.
Yeah.
God, what if that's the future of editing, virtual, like where you can, I think that's pretty cool. Like that's a very interesting time that we're in, and you made a movie during that time, and the way you guys had to innovate, collaborate to get it done, I think is.
Yeah, definitely.
Because before it would be done in what way? You would go to the studio, you'd probably go to an office or go somewhere to watch it.
Yeah, it kind of varied. In the past, usually I would, Daryl would edit, like with the Extraordinary Ordinary, my first feature, he would edit at my house, or sometimes he would edit and I'd be watching there with him. But I kind of like giving Daryl freedom. I feel like, I'd like to see a full, like, fleshed out film. Because when you're editing, of course, you're an editor yourself too, Joey. When you get all this footage, it's just, there's so much material. Like you have to watch everything right before you start chopping it up and piecing it together. So usually with Daryl, I'm like, Daryl, go bring me a film cut that I can watch. Even if it's like a 2-hour, film cut, at least I get a better idea. Because one is that gives, I think, gives directors a break, so they can come with a fresh pair of eyes and kind of like a fresh mind when the editor's like, here's what I have for the first cut. Give me your notes. Because, filmmaking, it's a process, I feel like, and I don't know why people like, they can't, there's a lot of people I know, they just don't give themselves like that headspace, before they watch something that they directed or wrote or acted in. But I think, posts, it's definitely a lot of patience. I think you have to be open-minded to other notes. Sometimes, I do the rule of 3. If more than 3 people say the same thing, I'm like, okay, let me sit down and take a look at the film, or if it's a particular scene, the scene. So I feel like, posts, don't be closed off to notes. I feel like there's a reason why if people are all saying the same thing, it doesn't hurt to take a look, and then you make that decision.
And I wanted to ask, there's a question from Lee Knight here that he sent me. What editing software do film editors use for movies like Howard? What did you use?
Yeah.
What's like the common thing in the industry? I know there's the top 3, right? Or top 4.
Yeah, there's like the top 3. So you have Adobe Premiere. A lot of filmmakers use Adobe because it's on the cheaper side, or kind of was. People also use the studios like Warner Brothers, CBS, NBC. They use a program called Avid, AVID, and Avid's a little more. It's proficient with studios. A lot of studios use Avid because it's kind of like the industry model. Yeah.
Is it still the industry? I mean, Avid. I mean, I've used it like 5 years ago. I don't even know. But
no, people use Avid. I didn't know what people use at the industry, because when I was last working on like Warner Brother lot, I think they were using Adobe Premiere. But then every kind of production is different. I mean, or studio, but most studios right now are using Avid. And the third one is, so you have Adobe Premiere, Avid, and the last one is DaVinci. So with Howard, we actually used a combination of Adobe Premiere and then DaVinci Resolve. Personally, I like DaVinci Resolve.
Like? Me too.
I mean, not to hate on Adobe. I know
we're learning on DaVinci. We're editing on DaVinci, by the way. Anyways.
Nice. But no, I was going to say, because I know most of your students, a lot of them edit. I personally like DaVinci because I just felt DaVinci gave I hate saying this, but it gave a prettier tone to Howard. It looked a lot nicer. And I remember I asked Daryl, I thought Daryl was going to kill me, but I was like, Daryl, can you please edit the rest of the film on DaVinci? I was like, I just hate Adobe. because my Adobe I stopped using because Adobe would actually crash my computer down because I think they always update it, Adobe. And no offense to Adobe, don't sue me, but I just prefer DaVinci because I just think DaVinci, it's like, it makes the film look more cinematic. It makes it look like a movie. So individuals like myself, when you shoot without a studio behind you, it makes your project look just so much like cinematic, like, oh, wow, I could picture this on the big screen now. And that's like the best result, I think as a filmmaker is when you're filming, you see all the raw footage, right? And you know this too, Joey, but like you don't see, when you film something, you see it before sound design, color correction. So post, I recommend that people should use more DaVinci. And I know DaVinci, I'll have to send you the link so you can send your students. I believe DaVinci does. They do like you can buy the entire program for like $300 or something.
And there's also a free version that's so amazing. It's like for it being free.
Yeah.
Actually, by the way, I use the free version, and I have no limits. I mean, I'm good so far. I might upgrade very soon though.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, but I mean, DaVinci, it's more it's reasonable financially. I think Daryl, did Daryl buy one? I think Daryl bought like the $300 subscription, and he says he loves it. I mean, DaVinci, the coloring's great. I mean, Adobe, I came from Adobe world, but DaVinci's just, I mean, once that came out, it just got so much, I think they just improved so much technology-wise, DaVinci, and I'm a fan of it. I plan to use it going forward with other projects.
Crazy random question. What's the full length? What's the file size of the film? It's like an hour and something. It's like gigs.
Oh God, I forgot the numbers. No,
really?
It's heavy.
Like
it's
20
heavy
gigabytes.
I think it's almost a terabyte. Howard Original. Yeah, because that's one of the things when you're making features. I had to buy like 2 8-terabyte drives, and I might buy another one just so I can. I get paranoid. I like to have backups of backups. And Daryl, my editor, he keeps backups. And I was going to mention too, there's a question here. So Daryl, he's actually the editor of Howard Original. He's the individual that put the film together. He color corrected and sound designed. So because, I know me. I mean, we all have backups. Kevin has a backup drive, 8 terabyte. I have I think I have 3 8 terabytes because I also have other projects on them. And then Daryl has 8 terabyte, a 4 terabyte, a 5 terabyte drive where he has like most of my projects on. Daryl's edited most of my projects, or he came on as like an assistant editor and helped. So I say back up the backups. I mean, what's beautiful is nowadays you can find hard drives or external drives that are terabytes for cheap on Amazon.
Just thinking about like Hollywood culture and how like everyone's kind of teamwork, people work together, but at the same time, a lot of people, I think, you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people tend to work together along projects. So if they do one film, they'll probably do the next film together. Is that just because being reliable, knowing what you're going to expect, and just that quality? What do you have to say about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the dream as a filmmaker, is people you work with on one project, you would like to continue that working relationship, future projects. It's common, kind of like example, like with Daryl edited like at least 7 of my projects. And that's because me and Daryl built a trust as, a working relationship. It was, hey, I like the way you edit my stuff, or hey, I actually feel you're the only individual that is delivering results that I like. Same thing with Kevin. Me and Kevin, we've co-written some stuff together. And of course, he was in Howard Original, the short. And, there's people on the feature film Howard Original that I've met, and, I want to work with them going forward. But of course, the pandemic, kind of has some delay. So that's the cool part with making content, no matter what it is, even if it's like a YouTube, TV, film, shorts, it's, you meet people that you're like, I like this person, business and, personal wise, they're very cool. And there's also too, there's nothing wrong if you don't work with people again, in projects you worked with. I think people need to keep in mind, individuals, sometimes they want a career change. I mean, I've met people that are actors and today they're focusing on singing, or they're focusing on modeling, or I've met actors turn directors, or actors turn, producers. So it's very cool to see where people over the years, like where they're at right now.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's the point with films. When you're making stuff, you see what you like, and then you see things that you don't like. And I had a professor tell me this years ago to a class. He said, he said the cool thing with going into entertainment industry is you end up, he's like, whatever you're pursuing, you end up doing something else too. So if you're going to pursue acting, he's like, you'll most likely also become a producer or maybe you'll become a director. Because I thought that was cool. I was like, I never understood what he meant until I think with when I started directing, because I just back then I was just focused on writing. I was one of those people that was like, oh, I'm too shy to talk to people. Believe it or not,
really?
Joey, no, but I was like, I'm too shy. I can't talk to people.
I feel like
people
you're never shy. You're just always
on
I your game.
Broke out of my shell. No, I feel like I'm an introvert. There's times where I like to be alone and watch my movies, read my books, or, you know, we mentioned this a few days ago. I said, I'm going to go home and watch a 90s scary film. I think I told you that. And it was like a Scream or something. But no, yeah, I mean, that was
well, you're getting me into it. Getting me into horror.
Yeah.
So guys,
I love horror films.
So guys, we're going to be closing up very soon. I'm looking at the comments. I see a bunch of comments here. Backstage also, final questions. Also, Natalie, any final things you want to share too, as we're going to close out in maybe 3 minutes?
Yes. So please do make sure you follow, of course, self-promo. Be sure to follow our Howard Original social media pages. Again, that's Howard Original 1, as in the number 1. Save the date, Friday, May 21st, 2021. Howard Original will be premiering on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Google Play, and some other streaming platforms. And if you follow our social pages, we'll also be updating everyone on having our theatrical release. So we actually partnered with this very cool company called Indie Seats, and Indie Seats is actually going to have some theater screening availability for Howard Original this fall. So you're able to.
Is that here in LA?
Yes. So everywhere? I was going to mention Indie Seats. You get to it's globally. It's US. It's out of US. You can actually put a request saying, "Hey, I want to see Howard Original." AMC in Australia, and you just put in request date, and Indie Seats will help walk you through how to do that. So, I'm really excited because I'm hoping by then, fall, hopefully we'll be in a little safer zone. I know right now with this quarantine, it's been kind of a hit or miss, and that's why everything's virtually. But yeah, no, please, if you're like comedy dramas, if you want to see the debut of Phantom Hall, he's the first pet cat I've worked with in a film. Phantom Hall, he'll be making his film debut on May 21st. But no, I'm really excited. Howard, I'm very proud of it. It's a new genre I kind of worked with, and cast is so talented. So definitely we have a lot of familiar and fresh faces. I have to get a shout out to Jasmine Richards. She plays Phoenix in the film, one of the love interests of Howard. Debut feature film. Had no idea. I mean, she fools me. I thought she was so talented. I'm just like, there's no way this can be your first feature. So definitely, again, Howard Original 1. So as in the number 1, be sure to follow us so you can stay up to date. And you can find the links once everything goes live on, again, Friday, May 21st.
Very cool, Natalie. We have a question here. Yeah. What made, actually, I'm going to add to that question too. 2 questions. So what made you get into filmmaking? And also now that you're kind of closing this project, how do you feel? So both ends, I guess.
I know. Your first question, filmmaking, I've always loved films. I grew outside of Los Angeles County. I grew up in the suburbs, so I was always a fan as a kid, the city life. Hollywood, where the Dolby Theater's at. Begged my parents growing up, can we go to Hollywood every weekend? They thought I was insane. They're like, no, why would we go to Hollywood? Hollywood's not a place for a kid. But sometimes they would take me to Hollywood. No, my parents would get like, why does she want to go to Hollywood so bad? But I was just, I was obsessed with films. I mean, I was just like, that's so cool that people like me can make a film. Like, I think once I got that in my head as a kid, it's almost like anything's unstoppable at that point. You're just like, oh, if so-and-so can do it, I could do it too. So I think it was that mentality that made me pursue filmmaking. And then I think too, just watching movies. I mean, that was my homework. I was like, all right, I don't live in Los Angeles. I live 20 to 30 miles out from LA County, from Hollywood. What's my homework? I'm just gonna watch every movie there is. And then people like individuals like my grandmother, my grandma Connie, she's my mom's mom. she was a big reader, big movie person. So whenever I'd go visit Grandma Connie, she was always had me watch movies. So definitely, I think, I have to give a lot of thanks to my Grandma Connie because she was very loved cinema, and she'd always watch the same movies, but they were such classics. I have to thank her for that. And then
there's always like somebody there, right? There's always somebody there that kind of pushes you or like inspires you or kind of makes you kind of fall in love with.
And I think my Grandma Connie, she was a big reader, so she was always reading something. Even if it was like the Bible, she was also very religious. She was Catholic, but we used to laugh because she was hardcore Catholic. She would go to church every day at 7 a.m, but she would still like watch things like West Side Story, Sound of Music. I'm thinking of the other one, Mystic River. I remember I saw Mystic River with my grandma. It's a Clint Eastwood film. Like students, ask your parents to watch that first, a little darker film. But I think going to the movies with my Grandma Connie too, and seeing her reaction to like certain films, I was like, oh wow, my grandma's crying at this film, or wow, like my grandma's like shocked. So it was interesting as a kid when you'd see like your grandparents like in shock or sad about something. It almost like made you scared. I was like, wait a minute, why is she crying? But I think that's what it was. It was seeing how much of an impact literature and in cinema had on my grandma. So definitely, I have to say, I think that's where I got it from. Just because I feel, just she was always around it, until the day she passed. I mean, books, movies, like she liked her, going to the library, renting things too.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then what was the other question?
I think that's it. You think you kind of answered it together in both ways. Or I think my question was like, now that you're ending, closing out this this film, or launching it, it's like a release. So how does that feel?
Oh, Howard, it's kind of bizarre because I think with any film, you're with it for months and months and months, or sometimes years. So with Howard, I feel like it's actually kind of picking up right now because of a lot of the promo, and because we are a smaller film, we individually kind of promote it on our own. But yeah, it's going to be, I think it's not going to kick in till the release date next month. I think it'll be like, usually on release dates or something.
So it's not kicking in yet. You're still in the promoting, like just
promotional mode. The grind mode. And like right now I'm thinking too, like I'm actually like after this, I'm going to be sending out some emails, kind of sharing Howard Original and then some other projects. So I'm always like, that's what I love doing. That's the perk with promoting, because it kind of helps me find like the audience or colleagues of mine that's seen my dramatic work. They're going to see comedy work of mine for the first time or second time. Yeah. So yeah, it's a little surreal. I think it's going to kick in the like relief feeling once the film comes out next month. Because usually when the release date, I kind of tend to not sleep that week up leading to release date. And then the day after, I usually will crash and sleep for like the rest of the day.
That's funny. Yeah. That's cool. Well,
that happens.
Natalie, good luck with all of that. Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What you have accomplished is something huge, something that I think many don't even start with their own ideas. What you've done is great. Yeah. And I actually look up to that. So that is awesome.
I appreciate it.
So yeah, I think that's it for today, guys. I want to bring Fred. Fred wants to like waving at the one question. Fred, we're way over time.
Thank God for that. I thought you were going to forget about me for a moment.
You were. I didn't. You were.
I know. At one point, I had my headphones out. So Natalie, I want to ask you what gives you what amazes you about filmmaking, what inspires you, and what's your passion for it?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, for me, I'm at this point, if a film, TV show makes me feel something after watching it, and I can't stop thinking about it, that's what inspires me, whether it's sadness, happiness, or even angry. There's some films I've watched and you just be angry. You're like, oh my gosh, that was such an informative, film. But I feel like that's what makes a great content to watch, is if it makes you feel something. Because I feel that's the point with content nowadays, whether it's on Netflix or on YouTube or in the theaters. I think other filmmakers, that's their point. They want to make you feel something. Mm-hmm. And that inspires me. And I think that's what's beautiful about having streaming platforms, because especially during this quarantine, it's introduced me to so many new filmmakers or films I've never heard of and things I wouldn't I don't think we'd know about unless it was for these streaming platforms. So definitely that's what continues to inspire me. Films that I've been a fan of for years or months, I try to rewatch like every few months, just because I try to remind myself, oh, seeing this film in theaters was such a extraordinary feeling. It was so beautiful, whether that was the acting, the directing, the story. So it's a combination of everything. I think that's the cool part with other people's work. If they get that impact from you, they did a really good job then.
Yeah. I want to bring in this comment from Breedbot. He says, my favorite Jim Carrey movie is Liar Liar. I actually like that
love that movie. I just watched that like 2 months ago. No, Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's one of those actors I would love. He's one of those like top 10 actors I'd love to work with because he's so. Jim Carrey. I don't know if you've seen the comment whoever wrote that comment. He's done also dramas. He's a fantastic dramatic actor too.
He's interesting, right? He does a lot of he could do comedy, dramas. Yeah. Those are really good characters. Good actors.
Yeah, and I feel
more.
When a lot of comedic actors, they're very, very talented dramatic actors because people like Jim Carrey. Like I grew up with Jim Carrey, not to give my age away. The Mask was like one of my childhood movies, and Liar Liar. So in my teenage years, when Jim Carrey did, I think it's called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and he did a little more of the darker films. I think the other one was Man on the Moon, where he plays Andy Kaufman. I was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like complete 180. He's just like, he's not like, his kind of like typical, very like physical comedic performance. This is like straight on dramatic. And I was going to say too, kind of add on to Fred's question, also actors, they also inspire me too. I am a big fan of actors who they try a whole new genre. If they're a dramatic actor and they do musicals, or like Jim Carrey, they're a comedic actor, but then he does a dramatic film. I love that. I think at 90% of the time, I think you're going to get like a great performance. I haven't seen one where like, oh, they didn't do well. No, they're like, a lot of actors are hungry to try new things. So that also inspires me to like be around those type of actors too. They always wanted to try new material.
Very cool. Natalie, thank you for joining. I think we're done for today. Guys, thank you everyone who joined. Fred, Leonite, Poke, thank you guys. And we'll see you next time.
Yes. All right. Bye, guys. Take care.
See you.